What's up everyone, it's Endymion, and today I want to talk about some developments across the industry and how it seems regardless of how consumers are rejecting these ideas, companies are hell-bent as ever to push them. To start off, I want to look at Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which I recently platinumed and I enjoyed it immensely. One of my favorite characters in those games is Merrin, the badass Night Sister. Well, according to thegamer.com, Jedi Survivor doesn't push identity politics enough with the headline that says, Merrin is pansexual, but Star Wars Jedi Survivor doesn't care. Jedi Survivor has a canonically queer major character, but you'd never know from playing it. To be real with you, I can't keep track of all of these genders and what each flag means. According to Google, being pansexual means you're attracted to someone regardless of their gender or sexual identity. So, bisexual then? I'll probably get heat for saying that, but like I said, there's about as many gender identity flag combinations as there are Pokemon at this point. Anyway, thegamer.com basically says they're annoyed by how representation is, well, represented in games these days. They say characters like Lifeweaver in Overwatch 2's gender identity isn't showcased enough, and you need to dive deep into side lore in order to see it. And they complain that Merrin being pansexual isn't explored enough. TheGamer.com goes on to say, and I quote, Unfortunately, Star Wars Jedi Survivor has done the same with fan-favorite character Merrin. A novel bridging the gap between Fallen Order and Survivor called Star Wars Jedi Battle Scars was published in 2023, telling the story of the Mantis crew in the years before the events of the second game. In this novel, it was revealed that Merrin is canonically pansexual and hooked up with a woman who defected from the Stormtroopers. Merrin also briefly mentions in an optional conversation in Jedi Fallen Order that she had been very close with another Night Sister called Ileana, and thought they'd be together when she was older. Of course, Merrin already looks like the archetypal bisexual goth girlfriend every gamer, me, craves, so queerness is no stretch of the imagination. Unfortunately, you wouldn't know any of this by playing Jedi Survivor. Spoilers ahead, she and Cal finally make out and decide to get together. I don't hate it, though Merrin is definitely punching below her weight. Cal is cute and all, but Merrin is funny, powerful, and incredibly competent. It's very easy for a player to see the relationship between Merrin and Cal develop and see her as a regular old hetero, especially since none of the game indicates otherwise. If you didn't hear about the novel, which is fairly likely, you wouldn't even know she was queer. End quote. Firstly, it's funny how the writer of this article is annoyed that Cal and Merrin are just a regular old hetero couple, as they put it. Apparently, it would benefit Jedi Survivor's story if Merrin was way more gay, and the only thing that would appease people like this is if Merrin stared directly into the camera and yelled, "I'm gay! Don't you know I'm gay?" But the reality is that Merrin is far more than her gender or sexual identity, as while yes, those are characteristics, I would argue people are more than what's between their legs or what they want to screw. Then there's the jab at straight characters where they say Merrin is punching below her weight, as they say Cal is cute but Merrin is funny, powerful, and incredibly competent. As if Merrin could do better than Cal simply because he's not queer and he's a straight white man. As you can imagine, the gamer's bias is showing. But I think Cal and Merrin make a great pair. She's sarcastic and wields spooky Halloween space magic, and Cal is a fearless Jedi who fights to protect those he cares about. I think if anything, the relationship between these two characters showcases a strong bond that uplifts both individuals. Merrin is strong, Cal is also strong, but they are greater because of their love together, regardless of nonsensical identity politics. Thankfully, Respawn doesn't make Merrin's or any other character's gender identity a focal point in the story, since Jedi Survivor's plot revolves around a group of survivors who are all tired of not having a place to call home, and what lengths they'll go to in order to protect the ones they love. That's a far more interesting story idea than Merrin scissoring some woman so the Gamer.com's writing staff can feel validated. The blunt truth is that no amount of pandering is going to be enough to satisfy people like this. They could make the entire universe gay, and even then the Gamer.com would complain that it's not enough. Why only this universe? Why not every universe? When your identity begins and ends with your sexuality, it's no surprise that no one takes you seriously. And to keep the Star Wars train rolling, we come next to the upcoming Disney Plus series, The Acolyte. which is being produced by Leslie Headland, the former assistant to Harvey Weinstein. According to Headland, The Acolyte will be a commentary on current American culture, society, and politics. Because nothing makes you want to travel to a galaxy far, far away than having the politics of our galaxy influencing it. You want to know how I know this show's going to be bursting with identity politics? Well, I'll just let her speak for herself, and I quote, "What I think is so interesting right now is that everybody thinks they're right. The Jedi really think they're right, and George Lucas tells us that they're wrong in Phantom. They missed a huge aspect of the dark side rising. That just felt like fertile ground to look into what's going on for all of us right now. When I was a young queer girl, I was just hanging out with Ursula, the sea witch from The Little Mermaid. As a queer girl growing up, if you don't identify with the heroes and the villains show up and they're all queer-coded and you're like, yes, that's me. As a queer filmmaker, you're going to see some camp, inevitably, but I would say that tonally our references are darker. Just because my show is technically, yes, female-centric, meaning it centers around a female protagonist, I don't think that necessarily excludes men from that space," end quote. If you couldn't tell from her own words, Leslie is queer. Maybe she didn't say it enough for you, so I just wanted to make sure that you know that. That's not to say that having a female protagonist is a bad thing, of course, since Rogue One featured Jyn Erso as its main character, and I think that movie worked well for what it was. The problem here is that too much media these days is being made to push carefully constructed messages, when all audiences want to do is escape the modern hellscape that is today's political climate. Having The Acolyte feature a huge roster of female characters doesn't fill me with an iota of confidence. Because like the Gamer's article about Merrin and her being pan, these things are only pushed to hit checkboxes. Not to mention in Star Wars Vision's second season, fans have complained that every single episode features a female protagonist. The second season consists of 9 short stories, and not a single one has a man in the leading role. One of the episodes is called The Pit, and it's about a bunch of scavengers trying to escape a giant pit after stormtroopers abandon them there. If this plot sounds familiar, you'd be right, since it's literally a carbon copy of the pit scene from The Dark Knight Rises, where Bruce has to climb out of the pit to return to Gotham. They just took that, slapped a female protagonist in it, and said, yeah, that's good enough. The only episode really worth seeing here is the 5th episode, Journey to the Darkhead, and that's mostly because it's done by Studio Mir and it just looks great. But besides that, the entirety of Vision Season 2 just further strengthens the agenda surrounding Star Wars that Supreme Sith Lord Kathleen Kennedy has been pushing since she was put in charge of the IP. The Force is female was kind of a meme for some, but it seems like despite tsunamis of backlash and criticism, Kennedy is pushing her identity politics regardless. This push for representation has not only soured the well, but it's made this new problem where voice actors are punished if they voice a character that has a different skin tone. I wish I was kidding, but unfortunately, this is now something that is deemed problematic. The most recent sacrifice upon the blood-soaked pedestal of identity politics is Amy Smith, who voices Izanami and Ayn in Dislight. Apparently, this is a mobile game where you play as various waifus. This Ayn character is black and Smith is a white lady, so now she's being called racist for simply doing her job. One of these industry people complaining is Ileana Zebro, who is the dialogue editor for games like Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak and Stranger in Paradise Final Fantasy Origin, who said, "Came on Twitter and saw this in my For You. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is Ayn a person of color?" Looking over at Ayn's announcement on Dislight's Twitter, there seems to folks happy about Ayn being another great POC character in the game, so I'm quite confused. Another voice actor, Michelle Rojas, blasted Smith saying, "A warning to VAs, don't do this. It will never be worth the booking. This casting director didn't care, but many do, and it doesn't go unnoticed. We have to have trust in our actors, and this is a red flag." Even an industry casting director chimed in saying, "Even assuming there was no reference art in the original audition, as soon as VA saw the character, they should have said, no, I don't feel comfortable voicing a POC. That's it. This whole do whatever it takes to make it mentality is going to kill careers before they even start." And amidst all of this nonsensical bashing of this poor voice actor who was probably just happy to get work, she had to backpedal and post a lengthy apology on Twitter which said, and I quote, "I wish I had a better excuse, but I don't. I screwed up. But if I can sincerely wish for one thing, I hope it can be seen not as a malicious screw-up, but seen as I make mistakes and can be dense sometimes kind of screw-up. What hurts is I really do try my best to do the right thing when it comes to authentic casting. It's something I believe in, so to have this oversight in my own auditions is an incredibly hard thing to swallow. I had a thought process behind what I was seeing in this audition casting call, but it was clearly wrong. I'm really sorry. This has made me realize I do need to be much more vigilant with the choice of whether to submit or not to submit with certain auditions moving forward. Sometimes the answer is clear as day and it's an easy yes or no for me, whereas with some other auditions, I'll admit on a personal level, I found it difficult to navigate. As voice actors, I completely recognize there's an ownership on us to make the right judgment calls, and I just need to refine mine much more. I'm really sorry to those I've let down and for not supporting my fellow voice actors as much as I could be. I promise to be better. End quote. Now I'm going to say something that people will probably not agree with, but I really don't care. I don't think it matters if you look like a character in order to voice it. It's a video game. It's a small girl with blue dreads riding a robot into battle in some mobile game. What are they supposed to do? Scour the planet for a small black genius girl with blue hair that makes robots to voice this character? It's funny how you have this big discourse around nonsense like this, yet nobody bats an eye when Christopher Judge plays Kratos in God of War. Yet by this same mentality, Judge is racist because he's neither Greek or even vaguely passing as a white guy. Yet not only did no one say anything, they even gave him awards for his portrayal of Kratos. And he's even publicly advocated to play Kratos in Amazon Prime's God of War series. Which, I'm not a biology professional, but I think Christopher Judge, caked up in white paint, playing a Greek character, is literally just like Amy Smith voicing these disliked characters. And listen, I like Judge voicing Kratos. I think he does a great job in the role, but by this same weird mentality, he shouldn't be playing Kratos. But maybe, just maybe, Sony Santa Monica hired the best person for the job and didn't really care about skin color because it's a video game. It's the Naughty Dog discourse all over again when Neil Druckmann casted Laura Bailey to play Nadine Ross. Which, by the way, Nadine was originally going to be a white woman, but after Druckmann was presented with concept art by one of Naughty Dog's artists depicting Nadine as black, he liked the look. It wasn't a racial thing, it wasn't any of that stupid nonsense. He just looked at the art of Nadine and went, yeah, that looks great, let's go with that. And Laura Bailey voiced Nadine and she did a great job, yet people got mad because Laura playing a black character was somehow stealing roles from people of color. But again, why does it offend some that Amy Smith plays someone she doesn't look like, or Laura Bailey too, but no one bats an eye at Kratos? Honestly, I think it's more racist to say that you can only play characters that you look like when it comes to voice acting. Which, by the way, your face isn't even shown. It's voice acting. Isn't it more racist and limiting to say you can only play what you look like? Imagine if a game has an animal-like character. Are the game devs now xenophobic racist idiots because they gave the role to a human when the character is so clearly a giant animal? The mental gymnastics and made-up problems of today are so stupendously stupid, it's a miracle our society even exists at all, I'm convinced. This moronic push for forced representation will just pigeonhole everyone into roles simply because of their skin color or sex. When it comes to live-action characters, yeah, maybe don't have a white guy playing Black Panther. But also, who the hell honestly cares if the person behind the microphone looks like what they're voicing? And by the way, with that mentality, that means every voice actor who's not Asian that has done dubbed voice work for any anime in the entirety of human history is now a raging racist and must be cancelled? You voiced Goku or Vegeta? Those are Asian characters. Sorry, check your privilege, you're now cancelled. Please face the wall and plead for mercy while I load my rifle to end your miserable, racist, sad life. Is this really what we want our stories and media to become? Voice acting, motion capture, anything that revolves around someone of talent voicing something, in my opinion, doesn't need to be what the character is. As if I'll sleep any more soundly at night knowing that Kratos is voiced by a beefcake white guy, like that really matters. Judge does a great job when it comes to playing the character, but if he does end up playing Kratos in live action, the woke activists better keep that same energy. Otherwise, it's pretty hypocritical, all things considered. I mean, even Anthony Mackie, who plays the Falcon in the MCU, and I know some of you will say he's Captain America now, yeah, cool, but the Falcon is his own identity, so I'm going to refer to him as such, had this to say about forced representation. Watch.
I've done 7 Marvel movies now. Every producer, every director, every stunt person, every costume designer, every PA has been white. But then when you do Black Panther, you have a black director, black producer, you have a black costume designer, you have a black stunt choreographer, you have a black, and I'm like, that's more racist than anything else. Because if you only can hire the black people for the black movie, are you saying they're not good enough when you have a mostly white cast?
And I agree with Mackie. He's right. It is racist, and to think otherwise means the woke mind virus has likely successfully infiltrated your brain. And you are now a slave to the pandering of these morons. The push for forced representation at the expense of actual great storytelling is one of the key killers of the entire entertainment industry. Nobody with a mentally sound brain between their ears is going to watch an anime or play a video game and go, oh boy, I hope the person voicing this imaginary made-up video game character looks like this in real life. And if they do, they are likely terminally online in some echo chamber swallowing buckets of ideology at all times. So you want my spicy take? No, you don't need to look like a character in order to voice it or play them in a video game, even when it comes to motion capture. To do so would rob so many projects of talented individuals simply because they need to match a character's skin tone. I wonder if this same mentality is kept when a handicapped character is in something. Does the person playing it need to suffer from the same diseases or problems? Are we really going to limit people to only voice characters based on their skin? And are we really going to demand more representation when it comes to gender or whatever, even if it's blatantly pandering? How long until every main character is either a woman, gay, or some combo of the two? The blatant hypocrisy and ugly virtue signaling of terminally online naysayers is why we're here to begin with. So in order to not keep you here too much longer, I'll end by saying that forced representation is pointless and will only lead to the stifling of the media we all consume. And that is why, dear viewer, forced representation will never work and should be stopped at all costs. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.